So we had a nice little victory this week that we announced as well. You've heard of Antifa. These are the violent leftists who often riot and attack anyone they perceive to be an enemy on the streets. They're very powerful on the West Coast. They usually are dressed in black or in masks. Sometimes they're not. And one of these Antifa organizers and activists is a woman called, her name is Yvette Falarka, who's a middle school teacher in Berkeley, Unified School District out in Berkeley, California. And Falarka had sued Berkeley's school district to try to stop Judicial Watch from getting documents about her. Why were we interested in her? She's a prominent figure in By Any Means Necessary. By Any Means Necessary. They might as well write By Violent Means Necessary. A group funded by the Marxist Revolutionary Workers League that, quote, protests conservative speaking engagements. In 2016, Falarka and two of her allies were arrested and charged with several crimes, including felony assault for inciting a riot in Sacramento. And earlier this year, Falarka was ordered to stand trial for assault. Now, we wanted to know from Berkeley information about her Antifa activism, its effect within the school district, and she sued trying to keep us from getting the records, and we had to intervene to go into court there. She said that Judicial Watch was misusing the law for political purposes and that the school district should refuse to provide the information. I tell you, that was an unusual lawsuit, an unusual federal lawsuit. It's just remarkable that it even went as far as it did. So the good news is we won, because her lawsuit was ruled by a federal court judge to be entirely frivolous, and that Falarka and her two co-plaintiffs are been ordered to pay Judicial Watch $22,000 in attorney's fees and $4,000 in litigation costs. Judge Vince Charabria, I'm probably mispronouncing his name. His name is pronounced or spelled Chhabria. Chabria, I would guess this name is pronounced. He wrote in his ruling that the legal fees to Judicial Watch should be given because Falarka and her co-plaintiffs' First Amendment claims were premised on the obviously baseless assumption that the First Amendment condemns the speech of some while condoning the ideological missions of others. So Falarka tried to deny us our free speech rights, our First Amendment rights, while suggesting her right to advocate and actually engage in violence should be protected from any questioning. The plaintiffs also mischaracterized the documents under review, and that the plaintiffs, Falarka and company, failed to grapple with the role Ms. Falarka played in making herself a topic of public discourse through her physical conduct at public rallies. That's a nice way of putting it, isn't it? And her voluntary appearance on Fox News. So she was on, I think she was on Tucker Carlson. I don't think I ever watched that. I'm sure it's pretty good. The judge's order states that a significant portion of the documents the plaintiffs initially sued to protect from disclosure had been publicly disclosed months earlier in another suit. Brought by who? Falarka. Where she was represented by the same lawyer in this case. So obviously they had no reasonable argument to protect these documents from disclosure, don't you think? That's what the court ruled. So the ultimate ruling is Judicial Watch is entitled to attorney's fees because the plaintiff's lawsuit was frivolous and their litigation conduct was unreasonable. So they're jointly and severally liable, meaning they're all responsible to pay Judicial Watch's $4,000 in litigation expenses. And of course, there's the $22,000 in legal fees. In a separate order, she was ordered to pay $11,000 for her frivolous attempt to get a restraining order against, I guess, one of the targets of her ire, Troy Rorden, the former head of the UC Berkeley College Republicans. This is a huge victory against Antifa, who are misusing the courts to attack Judicial Watch, smear us, and prevent you and Judicial Watch, the American people, from getting access about this violent individual who's teaching our kids. So I'm glad Judicial Watch is, this doesn't cover nearly all of our costs, by the way. So, but it's positive. It's a significant strike for justice here. Obviously, this is getting national attention because of Judicial Watch. I mean, the battles against lawlessness occur all over the country. It's not just here in Washington. It's in California. It's in other places. And I'm glad that we were able to get this victory on your behalf. And I think we reviewed the documents. The documents show that obviously people were concerned about her being a teacher at the school and what kids were learning and hearing about. So good news there. Violent Antifa activist has to pay Judicial Watch over her pursuing an entirely frivolous lawsuit to prevent us from getting the documents we're entitled to under the law. So great news there.